John Rykeny is an expert in raising and taking care of wild cats, specifically lions and tigers. He takes care of their cubs at his house in Wynwood, Oklahoma. Lately, he raised a lion cub called Bone Digger and a tiger cub called Tony. John took care of the two cubs. He fed them milk and raw meat. Despite being from two different species, Bone Digger and Tony were like brothers. They played outdoors together, ate together, and spent time together. Tony was playful and enthusiastic, while Bone Digger was so passionate and caring, he'd watch over him all the time. The reason John raised and took care of Bone Digger is that Bone Digger's sick. He can't live in the wilderness because he was born with a bone problem that made him deformed and more fragile than normal lions. Because of that, Bone Digger needs to stay under protection all the time. Luckily, he met a person who could understand how one can live with a disability, and that person's John. In 1994, John fell on his back from a height of 16 meters, and this caused fractures in his hip and back joints. Doctors told him that he'll never be able to walk again. But John was stubborn. Thanks to the natural therapy, he was able to walk again. However, things kept getting worse. Doctors had to cut off his legs at the knees. But this didn't stop John from loving life and learning a new thing, which is taking care of sick wild animals. With time, John's become friends with Bone Digger, probably because both of them could understand each other's feelings of being different. After the cubs grew up, John could no longer keep them at his house, and he had to send them to a more suitable place. John wasn't only taking care of wild cats, but also working as a guard in GW Exotic Animal Park that became Bone Digger and Tony's new home, where they can play and run in a wide place. Tony was let out to join the tigers, and Bone Digger was given a place to live in. However, he wasn't happy at all. He was lonely and missed playing with Tony and John. Although John understood that right away, he couldn't let him join the other lions because they could kill him. However, he thought of a different solution. There were 4 dogs wandering freely in the park. The guards let them play there and come in and out freely. One of the dogs, named Abby, was brave and playful. That's what gave John the idea. John put the dog Abby with Bone Digger in the cage. Yes, as you heard, close the cage. Honestly. All the guards held their breath, especially when Abby jumped, wanting to play. Bone Digger, on the other side, stood up silently. No one knew what he wanted to do. Is he going to attack and kill the dog? But what happened next was shocking and unexpected. At first, Bone Digger backed away from Abby, as if he's afraid of him. But Abby didn't give up. He went close to him and kept jumping over him. Surprisingly, Bone Digger started softening up, went close to the dog and kept smelling him. After a while, both started interacting with each other. John knew he was right and his plans were successful. The two started jumping and playing together. They became friends. Abby was the perfect companion for Bone Digger. John suggested that it may be because of German breeds like Abby don't fear bigger animals. Abby and Bone Digger were placed in a bigger cage, and at the end, all the German dogs were brought to Bone Digger. Everything went okay. The cage was filled with a playful and lovely atmosphere. They were never separated, only when the cage was being cleaned up. John goes once in a while to clean the cage and check on Bone Digger and the rest of the dogs. John says that Bone Digger loves all the dogs, but seems that Abby is so special. Despite the difference between the lion and the dog, they play together, spend time together, eat together, and sleep in the same place. This animal friendship is not ordinary. John says there's a bigger bond between Bone Digger and Abby. The two get along so well. Bone Digger's a wild animal that John could tame, and Abby is a domestic animal that could be wild. There's a little from both of them in each of them.